Meanwhile, the Commerce Department adding 37 Chinese companies to its trade restriction list yesterday over their support of China's spy flight, which, of course, you know, the spy balloon flew across the United States for a week before Beijing before the United States finally shot it down. Joe Biden allowed this spy balloon to fly throughout much of the country, all the way to the Carolinas, as it received and took information from our military installations and sent it back. China's foreign ministry is slamming this move, saying Beijing firmly opposes the abuse of export controls. The U.S. also revoking licenses which allowed Intel and Qualcomm to ship chips to Huawei for use in its phones and laptops. Joining me right now is Hudson Institute Senior Fellow, Atlas Organization founder, and the author of China's Vision of Victory, Jonathan D.T. Ward. Jonathan, it's good to see you this morning. Take this on for us and explain to us why this is so important in terms of shipping chips to Huawei. I've talked a lot about Huawei on this program, really being the Communist Party of China's main surveillance tool. And now we've got the administration finally doing something. Do you think it's enough?
Right, main surveillance tool other than TikTok now. So, you know, we started going after Huawei about 2019, 2020. I mean, that's when it really ramped up, and putting them on the entities list, putting a whole bunch of their subsidiaries and affiliates on the entities list, and therefore restricting technology from the United States to Huawei, except through having an export license. So what happened here apparently was that licenses were granted to some U.S. chip manufacturers, and Huawei was able to take off, releasing new handsets, new laptops, and therefore, you know, the company has really come back. It has had a massive resurgence. Its revenue at the end of last year was $100 billion, which puts it squarely on the global Fortune 100. So, you know, we never finished the job with this company. And U.S. export controls, in fact, are very powerful if, you know, exemptions are not granted. And I think that's what has to be done here at this point. I mean, we still can restrict technology that Chinese corporations depend on, that the Chinese industrial base depends on. I mean, science and technology, their own strategic corporations, what they call strategic and emerging industries. I mean, all of this, a whole lot of it, depends on U.S. chips and U.S. technology. And we have the ability to cut that flow pretty dramatically. And if we're willing to use it, we can cripple these companies again. And we have to do that because Huawei, you know, not only is its sort of history and relationship with the CCP very well established, it's also a major R&D and technology center for the People's Republic of China and pretty much their entire science and technology enterprise, which itself is at the heart of China's vision of victory and their, you know, long-term objective. I mean, it's no longer long-term. I mean, this is happening. But their objective of overtaking the U.S. in key industries. So we can still stop that. We have the tools. We need to use them.
Well, my problem with this is even though certain companies are on the entity list, they still are trading in the U.S., okay? They're still in U.S. index funds, and I'd like to know why. If they're on the entity list, doesn't that mean they're off limits? Not so. So we still have, you know, investors funding the expansion of communist China, and this White House doing nothing about it. And by the way, when you say we started, getting on Huawei, what I think the rules were any new contracts were stopped, but anything that was already in place stayed. So if Huawei had contracts in place, wires in place at anywhere else in the U.S., that didn't get affected. Am I wrong?
Well, look, I mean, there's also a rip and replace initiative. I mean, we're trying, I think, to get them out of the United States, but we're going to have to go much more broadly against them. And I think you have to go after them as a company, Maria. I mean, this is, you know, to really destroy a Chinese corporation, which I think is going to become a very, sort of a distinguishing feature of this contest with China. We have to go after the actual battle units in their grand strategy, which are their strategic corporations, whether state-owned or state-backed, like Huawei. And there are a lot of things you can do with that. I mean, one, you can restrict technology. We have a great toolkit for that. It has to be enforced. Two, restricting market access, not only in the United States, but across the alliance system. You take a company like Huawei, they're stepping into new businesses outside of telecommunications. They're going into cloud. They're going into autonomous, into cars. And they see a massive expansion, on their horizon in the Asia-Pacific and Southeast Asia and Latin America and Africa. I mean, they have a global market strategy that we haven't even begun to address. So I think we're going to have to take on these companies in terms of access to capital, capital, access to technology, and access to global markets, not least of which is the U.S. alliance system. So there's a lot we can do. And Huawei is not the only one. I mean, ByteDance, oh my God, I'd love to send a strike package on that one. And there are a whole bunch of others that I think, we could really play hardball here. And the whole target set is incredibly apparent. It's China's SASAC corporations and its state-backed corporations, and they're all over the national strategies of the People's Republic of China. It's very clear how this works, and I think it would be extremely, a robust thing to do. I mean, we could do a lot.
Well, right now, the Chinese Communist Party is playing the hardball, okay? And Chinese military is criticizing the U.S. because the U.S. sent a Navy destroyer through the Taiwan Strait less than 2 weeks before Taiwan's president is inaugurated. China is also accusing the U.S. of having, quote, publicly hyped the passage of the USS Halsey. Jonathan, your thoughts on this, as we know that China has been aggressive in its support for Russia and its war on Ukraine, also has not been held accountable for that, and it's actually pushing back on the U.S. Sending this ship through the Taiwan Strait ahead of the inauguration there.
Well, sure, and I think this is a pretty standard issue, freedom of navigation operations, so it's going through international waters. I mean, this is something that the U.S. Navy, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command does on a very regular basis to emphasize the point that these are international waters, and the U.S. will continue to operate anywhere that, international law permits. Yet, on the other hand, both our outgoing commander of Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral Aquilino, and our incoming admiral of, leader of Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral Paparo, have both given, I think, pretty powerful statements to America, telling us, the nature of this threat. I mean, the fact that China is building a military force with the intention of being capable of invading Taiwan by 2027, and apparently they're on track to do that. So, look, we've been warned, I think, pretty clearly by our military leaders. They have the attention of Congress, by the way. I mean, there was just a very good letter written by the incoming chairman of the House Committee on the CCP to both the Secretary of the Air Force and the Secretary of the Navy, explaining the vulnerabilities of our bases and in the Pacific, and saying, look, we need to act on this. We need the DoD to act.
And most people get that. Yeah, that's right. And we talked about this the other day. Most people get that, the threat. Who doesn't get it? The CEOs of America. Okay, most CEOs are looking at China as the next big business opportunity and have not pulled back. I spoke with Greg Brown, the CEO and chairman of Motorola Solutions, the other day at the Milken Conference, who has shown incredible courage and thoughtfulness as far as the threat of Communist China. He's suing Hytera right now, a Chinese company, for what he says is intellectual property theft. Here he is with me this week at the Milken Conference. Watch this.
Motorola had $3.5 billion of revenue in China and 15,000 employees. Today, we have virtually no revenue and 50 employees. So after these infractions going back a decade and a half ago, we made the decision, get out of China. It's not a productive market. They don't play on even terms. The Communist Party leads the theft of intellectual property and patents. So the addressable market of $66 billion that we pursue for public safety and national security is zeroing out China. We left that market.
Jonathan, you know that I wrote a lot about the Motorola story in my book, The Cost, and he's had up-close and personal experience with the theft from Communist China. Your reaction to Greg Brown's moves to get out of China?
Well, look, this is the standard playbook. I mean, that's what they're going to do. They're going to invite you in, strip you of your technology, produce national champions, push you out, and then go after you in global markets. I mean, this is going to happen to Elon Musk and Tesla. Apple's going to have a rough ride. I think any company at this point that doesn't have a clear exit strategy from China, is not only putting their own company's future in jeopardy, but I think, we could have a major market event here by the time U.S. corporations who have not mitigated their China exposure. We've seen what's happened to Chinese equity markets. They're not coming back. U.S. corporations with too much China exposure. I mean, now is the time to get out, to de-risk, to basically find your way out of this problem set. But if you're betting long on China, I think you're a company that's going to take a hit in the 2020s and not recover. And I think investors need to see that. They need to understand that. And Wall Street needs to push our CEOs to have the freedom to maneuver out of this problem set.
Well, CEOs need to know what John Ratcliffe told us all a long time ago, the strategy of the CCP. Rob, replicate, replace. That's it. Jonathan, thank you. Always a pleasure. Jonathan D.T.
Thanks,
Ward joining us.